Hello and welcome to your in-depth weekly horoscope for week commencing the 10th of October for the Sun or the Ascendant. I'm going to give you some broad strands to look out for, but please stay with me. I will then dive deep to give you in much greater detail all the ins and outs of each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces. Now, as this week begins, the energy of last week's full moon is still cascading into this next 7-day period. Now, that full moon was in Aries. Aries is the sign of initiation, and the moon in Aries can be a little bit volatile. It definitely pushes us to think about our own needs, just at a time when the Sun in Libra is asking us to be aware of the commonalities we have with others, particularly as the ruler of the sign of Libra, Venus, is very close to the Sun and was on that full moon and is throughout this week. So there may be some situations where diplomacy can still have a part to play, even where we feel a bit frustrated. And because Mercury returns to the sign of Libra on Monday, it was last there on the 23rd of September before retreating in its retrograde back into the sign of Virgo. Well, Mercury in Libra is a great asset because it can help us to be a bit more detached. If people do see things differently, have a different worldview, express their ideas differently to us, we can take it a bit less personally. So there is some real opportunities in that regard this week. But Wednesday is a very powerful day because you will recall that for the whole of October, and if you've watched my November monthly videos, for the whole of November, Mars and Neptune are in a square within 3 degrees. And on Wednesday, this becomes exact. It's also exact on the 19th of November, but this can be a very draining influence. Mars in the sign of Gemini is very bright and vivacious, but can be quite opinionated. But Neptune in Pisces can distort. You can see us embrace our imagination in an awesome way, but because they're at a square, the thrust, the fire of Mars is kind of dampened down by that wet energy that's coming from Neptune in Pisces. So I think that Mercury being in the sign of Libra can be some pushback against the draining and rather demoralizing energy of Mars squaring Neptune. But also on Wednesday, Mercury is in an opposition with Jupiter. This is a repetition coming back again because Jupiter's retreating and Mercury obviously went into retrograde and is coming forwards again. So if we do need to have that exchange of views, the important thing is not to exaggerate our point of view, to try to stay rooted in reality, because Mercury is a planet that really likes cool detachment through its rulership of both Gemini and Virgo. But also on Wednesday, the Sun and Venus in that tight conjunction, but particularly the Sun, is in an exact trine with Saturn. So Saturn is of course in the sign of Aquarius, very much about humanity, the collective, person kind as a whole. And it does continue in that attritional right angle with Uranus through this week. It's going to come to a close within the 1 degree on the 12th, again midweek. So a really important day is Wednesday, but it's still going to be a very potent influence, really right through to the end of November, right up until the 2nd day of December this year. But the role of Saturn in its angle to the Sun and Venus is very stabilizing. So we're given an opportunity this week to be perhaps a little bit more detached, to push back against that rather distorting energy of Mars squaring Neptune, which can see a lot of gossip and and inaccuracies doing the rounds. We're being asked to be mindful of Mercury opposite Jupiter, staying grounded around the exchange of opinions and trying to make them as factual as possible. But when it comes to relationship matters, perhaps the full moon in Aries is going to help to push something into the open that does require some discourse and some discussion and perhaps even renegotiation. So it could end up being, despite that tricky right angle between Mars and Neptune and the full moon, quite a constructive week. And it's all about seeing that even if we feel that we're very different to one another, and we can be very polarized in our positions, whether it's with people we find it difficult to work with, people online, or whether it's in terms of people in our immediate world, it's important to always remember the things that do actually make us all rather similar in some ways. And if we can celebrate those things, it's going to help us to deal with that challenging right angle between Mars and Neptune. Now, please stay with me for each of the 12 zodiac sign forecast. But if you would like to understand what year 2023 will hold for you in terms of more serious astrology, if you give me 3 pieces of your personal birth data of time, date and place of birth, I can give you your forecast for next year, plus the rest of this year free, and in my special package, your personal life roadmap, your character analysis. This can help you to understand some of the patterns that have come up in your life, perhaps sometimes in a challenging way, that you can figure out how to negotiate better going forwards, but also where you can expand upon your potential and capabilities. There's 30% off in this special package. Please see the link below for more. Finally, if you're new to my channel, thank you so much for joining me. I'd love it if you would subscribe. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. If you're an ongoing viewer, thank you so much for all your views. So Virgo, your week commencing the 10th of October forecast begins with your ruler Mercury moving out of your sign and back into your second house, where of course it was on the 23rd of September. I feel there's been something you've been working on that was giving you a cause for optimism, and it may have been where you could be more self-expressive or individualistic in your approach. It may have been to do with a business idea, and maybe you've had to rejig this in some ways. It hasn't quite gone exactly to plan. The full moon, which occurred at the end of last week, is asking, in your case, to think about how you can get that fine balance between the pivot in the middle between your immediate financial needs and being mindful of the future. And of course, this is not an easy fix in lots of ways, because so many things have gone up, but income hasn't necessarily followed. However, because the sun is very closely aligned to Venus in your second solar house, along with Mercury, if anyone's going to find some solutions this week, it's going to be you. And it can be a combination of your ingenuity, your talent, your hard work and discipline, which are all very much part of your nature, allied to your precision, that attention to detail, which you really bring to situations, and that can really shine this week. What's not to like? Well, it's just that somebody that is immediately around you may be resisting some plan or desire you have to raise your profile, be more dynamic. This person may find it difficult to tune into what you're doing, or may seem distracted, or may in some ways come up with some faint praise when you're really needing some full-on encouragement. But with also Mercury and Jupiter in an opposition, this can be a time when, if you can use those core qualities of yours, the precision, the attention to detail, the hard work, the application, but also give yourself permission to believe that there are some ways that you can work through any challenges you have. that sense of inspiration, that sense of self-confidence can take you forwards, even when there may be some elements of the current situation which feel very restrictive. And of course, that's being reflected by Saturn's right angle to Uranus. And, it may be stressful if you're feeling that your options are not quite as varied and as great as you would like. But by focusing on the things that you know very well, that you've rehearsed, that you've practiced something, maybe you've let go of some parts of the plan, but now you're coming together, and I think you can start to see the tangible benefit shaping up.